Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Russell Matthews here. Now, there have been some proceedings in the House of Commons that have pushed forward some bills and motions that could see some additional supports go out to various Canadians. The first is Bill C-14, and that was to implement the Fall Economic Update. Now, the main things inside of this is a pause on interest for student loans, as well as an upgrade of $1,200 or $300 every 3 months for the Canada Child Benefit. These are the main stimulus or sort of benefits that are being handed out to people via this bill. And the second is a new motion that would see pressure put onto the Liberals to increase the old age security for seniors up $110 additional every month. That's a boost of up to $1,320 for the entire year. So in this video, we're going to do a quick update on how these votes went, where they currently are in the process, and how likely it is for it to actually be passed. Let's dive in, but first make sure to check out the links in the description where you can open up your very own investment account and take your wealth into your own hands. And if you haven't already done so, make sure to hit the subscribe button to keep on supporting Canadian content just like this. First off is Bill C-14, the one that's bringing interest relief to students, as well as a top up of $1,200 over the course of the year for parents of children under the age of 6. Now, the bill itself wasn't very controversial, but the process that it had to go through in order to actually get to this point was very controversial. You see, most parties supported this, but the Liberals accused the Conservatives of delaying this and playing political games, just pushing this decision and this vote off farther and farther into the future. This was initially introduced in November, and here we are sitting in March, and now finally we have some new updates. Here we have the announcement of how the vote went. They said, vote result, Bill C-14 was adopted successfully at the second reading and referred to the committee. They got 214 yeses and 119 noes. Now, this is essentially everybody else saying yes, and the Conservatives saying no to this vote in most cases. And you'll see this bill was introduced by Chrystia Freeland. Now, she's under a lot of pressure right now because the Liberal government in almost 2 years hasn't tabled a new budget, which could see us introducing the future of Canada, at least from an economic standpoint, what new benefits and supports and programs will be created. We're expecting that in the coming months, but it seems they've delayed it. They're saying it's not going to be in March, likely in the midway point of April. So we got to keep our eyes open for that to see what actual stimulus and benefits will be implemented for you. But just because we finally got to this vote doesn't mean that we're actually going to see this happen. At least it's not certain yet. You see, now it needs to go to committee, and then there are a couple other steps. Let's take a look at what else has to happen in order for this child benefit, as well as the interest rate pause to happen for students. We got to check out what steps we got to go through. So here's the layout of how this works. We just finished this step here for second reading and referral to a committee. Now that they've voted on this and successfully passed it, it's going to be sent to a committee to carefully examine every single clause of the bill, and there's lots of different things that are covered in this bill, so it could take a little while, but this committee has to go over every clause, and then they come back to the House of Commons and present their findings and their recommendations as to whether or not the bill should be accepted and actually legislated and brought into reality. After the House of Commons has heard the committee's response, they vote again as to whether or not to adopt this, and then it goes to the Senate, and they take a look at it, and they debate it, and they adopt it, and then it actually receives royal assent, and it comes into force and essentially becomes a reality. So we still have a couple more steps to go through, but it is promising that it's finally through this section of the House of Commons. As for how quickly all of this could happen, there's too many factors to really give you a accurate time frame, but I'm going to keep you updated right here on the channel whenever any news comes out about this proceeding any further. Next up is the motion that proposes this $110 boost to old age security for some of the people who are most vulnerable during this pandemic, are seniors. And here it says the House of Commons has adopted a motion calling on the government to include a $110 per month boost to old age security benefits in the upcoming federal budget. And they actually finally were able to vote on this. This is another one that they were debating in the House of Commons for a while. It seems that most other parties were supportive of this, but the Liberals were not, claiming that they had given adequate support and that there were problems with the way they were actually proposing for this support to be implemented that they had concerns with. So they were not in favor of this motion. But in a 183 to 147 vote held Monday afternoon, everybody else voted yes, and the Liberals voted no, unsurprisingly. Now, the important thing to consider with this update is that this is only a motion. This is different from the bill that was being proposed for C-14 that we just talked about. Instead of this being a bill, it's a motion. Now, what that means is that now the House of Commons has voted, and it seems that they're in support of this motion, and it seems that they're they're sort of suggesting to the Liberals that, hey, we all support this. You need to include this in your budget that is upcoming. Again, we talked about that. We're expecting it in April. We originally thought that that budget was going to come in March, but now we're pushed back again to April. So the Liberals don't actually have to make these changes and actually implement this inside of their budget, but it would be a particularly bad look if they didn't implement this after it's seen that the majority of the House of Commons was actually in support of this boost to old age security. And I know just from reading comments in the comment section on these videos, just how many seniors have been frustrated with the federal response to the pandemic in terms of supporting them. It seems they've been forgotten or left behind, and some are slipping through the cracks. So there's more and more mounting pressure on the Liberals to actually truly adopt this motion, or to create something on their own that could be an adequate support for seniors for the time being. But again, like so many other things, we're going to have to wait to see a budget to know what's going to happen. Now, it's an unprecedented amount of time for us to not have a budget from the government. They're saying it's due to the pandemic, which makes sense, but it's been over 2 years now, or it will be by the time they release it, hopefully in April, since we've seen a budget and we've had any guidance on which way the country is going in terms of our economic and programs and funding's future. But that is what's going on right now. I'm going to keep you updated right here on the channel for any other future developments in this area, and make sure to check out the links in the description where you can open up your very own investment account and take your wealth into your own hands, because it seems that these days all we can truly depend on is ourselves. So it's important to learn about that stuff and start investing if you haven't already done so. And of course, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure to do that and hit all those good buttons to keep on supporting Canadian YouTube content. And with all of that said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope this video helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time. This channel is supported by viewers like you. Thanks, channel members.